The moderator of the plenary session, Andrei Sharonov, is invited. Hello, dear friends, Vladimir Vladimirovich, on behalf of the organization committee of the forum, you are greeted here at our urban conference, The Forest Tomorrow, the Tools of Positive Changes. The fact is that we are planning to have the fourth meeting of the Urban Forum, and that would be in Moscow in December 14th. And this year, the first time when we planned the net of regional conferences. And today we're having the fifth conference here in Vladivostok, and the previous four ones during summer and autumn, they were in other cities of Russia: Ufa, Novgorod, Yekaterinburg, and St. Petersburg. All those conferences, and the final conference urban forum is provided with experts of Strelkova, Skolkovo, where I am working, realtors, chamber, strategic partners. Partner is at the Bank of Moscow. The head of the board of Mikhail Kuzovlev will take part in this forum. The idea of such forums, well, to collect the professional association of experts, elite and public groups, initiative groups, well, and for the topic of urban development and expanding development of cities. And the fifth conference will be compared to the fourth. Well, that would be the topic of the regional development. And today, during several sessions, we are going to discuss about the line of Vladivostok development, migration, and the criteria of development, directions of development, and efficiency of the developed institutions on the regional and the regional levels. And I would like to introduce the participants of the present day discussion. Lena Sierra, the Deputy of Ministry of Housing, Utilities, Svetlana Utyasheva, Vladimir Miklushevsky, Governor of Primorsky Krai, Mikhail Kuzovlev, President and Chairman of the Board of Bank of Moscow, Leonid Belyakhin, Head of the Department of Philosophy and Cultural Studies of the Pacific State University, Yuri Krupnov, the Chairman of the Observation Council of Institute of Demography, Migration and Regional Development, Grigory Rezin, Professor of the Higher School of Urbanism, partner of the Construction Bureau Strelka. Also, we are having several mayors of cities, and we are having a long schedule, and we'll have a chance, well, to listen to them. And the floor is given to the Governor, Vladimir Miklushevsky.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues, dear friends. I'm excited to welcome you at the opening of the Moscow Urbanistic Forum, which is dedicated to the development of positive changes in the Russian Far East. The whole leadership of the country, the president, are looking at the development of the Far East, and the president called the development of the Russian Far East as a national priority of the country for the 21st century. I clearly, totally support this statement, specifically because the Russian Far East is far behind in the development as compared to other regions of the countries. However, at the same time, we are overly pragmatic about stating that the Russian Far East is a part of Asia Pacific, and it would be not very reasonable to develop the country only on the European vector. And besides, we know the development of the world is moving towards Asia Pacific. So we've got to combine two tasks: develop the Russian Far East and to facilitate a quickly developing economies of Asia Pacific with resources and energy. It's a task that we're solving today. And if we're speaking about Primorsky Krai territory, our province, it has a mission of outreach post of Russia here in the Asia Pacific. Specifically for this, Primorsky Krai province in the contemporary history of the Russian Far East is actively developing because we're at the sharp edge of the pivot to the east, which the president has declared. We are at the forefront of social and economic development. Within several years, our region has become a economic center of the country on the Asia Pacific coast, and the development of Primorsky Krai was expedited and boomed because of summit of APAC 2012. The city has changed dramatically. It became unrecognizable in a good sense. And what's more, what it has changed is the way of thinking and desires of people. And this comes only not to Vladivostok, but also the whole group of citizens of Primorsky Krai. We know that we're developing, that we'll continue developing, and our life will continue improving. And in my brief intro, I would like to focus on several important points. First of all, the first thing that the urbanistic forum is dedicated to, the matter of urbanization, which is one of the major factors of international development. I would also like to speak about some plans that we have in our province in terms of creation of agglomeration. The second topic is formation of territories of advanced development, even though we would have a special breakout session dedicated for this matter. But nonetheless, I would like to stress this point because it's a major factor of development of the territory. And the third matter I would like to discuss is enlarging of the municipalities, which, because we are at a threshold of serious changes in the lives of the region. And these changes, of course, should lead to better manageability of the territories and more rapid economic development. Today, in the province, we have major investments. If we're speaking about investments in infrastructure of APAC summit, that was about 20 billion US dollars. Most of them come from the federal budget. However, we also had money outside of the budget. I would look at some of the projects we're being developing now. So Eastern Petroleum Company, which is a subsidiary of Rosneft Company, we are expecting some 30 billion US dollars to be invested into this. Also, Gazprom is going to build its refinery for liquefied natural gas with a total output of investments of 20 billion US. The largest shipyards that we're building in Bolshoi Kamen city. The chemical plant, the solar plant that is already operational and rapidly developing. And we are creating a free economic zone specifically for this plant so that we would increase the output production there. So it's one of the, those are the list of around 20 existing investment projects. And the whole infrastructure, the city environment, the habitat of people outside of the cities should match what I have just described, because all of these investment projects would require larger manual work. The presence of the universities, which are represented here in great number. The flagship of those is First and Federal University. And moving to the topic of specificity about agglomeration, I would like to inform you that we are planning to create an agglomeration of polycentric type. An agreement of this agglomeration of over 10 local communities is already signed, with a center in Nahodka, Ussurisk, and Vladivostok. The first step we're going to discuss here at the Urbanistic Forum, we're signing specific agreements between 4 municipalities and the provincial government, speaking of Vladivostok agglomeration, which incorporate Vladivostok, Artyom, Nadezhdinsk, and Shkodovsky counties. The idea of these agreements would be transferring of authority to the provincial government on the matter of urban design and planning, the use of land and construction, to make sure that from just encouragement and motivation we would come to the matter of construction of agglomeration. Why would we need that? First of all, we're doing it for our citizens, because agglomeration is a transportation accessibility. We're going to build the highways, improve the highways. Agglomeration is a matter which would allow people to choose to work where they want to work. I would like to tell you that once we are creating these agglomerations, we would territory of advanced development, the Nadezhdinsky Industrial Park. I would look at it later on. And another important venue would be in Artyom, in the city of Artyom, which would be the source of a larger employment opportunities. We are speaking, I already focused on it, the shipyard that would be located in big Bolshoi Kamen city, which would be a neighboring city to Shkodova community, and it requires a lot of our efforts. Besides, we're going to provide better access to medicine and education so that people could also live outside of the city. We've got to resolve a major social issue which the city cannot handle, to provide territories to the families that have 3 kids and families that have 2 children, and many other problems. The experts who gathered here today on this hall would be able to discuss these issues more professionally. I'm not an expert on urbanistics. They would be able to discuss what needs to be addressed, and I would be very grateful if for those solutions that you would find important to raise, which is why formation of Vladivostok agglomeration, the signing of the agreements would be done today after we wrap up with this session. The second session I would like to address is territories of advanced development. We're planning to create 5 of those so far. That's oil and gas cluster in Partizansk community, scientific and educational zone in Zarusky Island, with the elements of recreation zone, Zarubina logistics zone, production zone in Nadezhdinsky, and Mikhailovsky County production zone. Among those projects that we were addressing, that I was addressing in my presentation earlier, we are also looking at Mikhailovsky farming zone with a total amount of investments up to $1 billion US. The last thing I would like to raise is the issues of merger of the counties. During the summer trips to all 34 cities that I had a chance to visit. I've met a great number of people there, with the members of parliament, with the bureaucrats, ordinary citizens, with the public activists. And in many of those, I was asked uh, about the reasonability of two counties, the Spasdalny as a city and Spasdalny as a county. In the morning, I would meet with one of them, and in the afternoon, I would meet with the second of those. The same issue comes to Partizansk and Partizansky County. It's a mature issue. I spoke with a lot of members of parliament. Ordinary people, as I have told you, are asking me these questions. And of course, we need to look at the city of Arseniev, and which is a major center of aviation industry. It is bound in its own limits. It's limited by the borders. We should unite it with the neighboring communities and Bolshoi Kamen and Shkodovsky County. Those were. It has always been just one county, one administrative unit. However, due to the fact that Bolshoi Kamen has become a closed city, a military compound, um, and they're going to lift this military status of its son, and we might think of merging their government. All of that requires detailed discussions, and the decisions would be made by us, by people. We require referenda to be held, and I would want to encourage you, the experts here, and would give me your recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Later we'll come back to this issue. And now I would like to invite Elena Sierra, and she's the Deputy Minister of Construction and Municipal Housing Economy. Hello. Good morning. That's so nice. Well, the urban forum in different cities gives an opportunity to discuss with experts the ways how the Ministry of Construction and Municipal Housing economy is working. And thanks to this, that will be 1 year after signing the ministry document, and unfortunately we had no special ministry, and we have got a lot of questions, and now we have to get to enroll experts, which take an active part. Different institutions of development who are working with these problems, which are needed to be tackled. And I would like to say the words of welcoming from the Minister of Mining, Alexander Ivanovich, to say the words of thanks, to the host of this forum, who invited us to take part in this event, and to put our attention, to the issues the ministry is dealing with, and that would be nice to hear to your professional expertise in, and the question of entrepreneurship in construction. In April of this year, that was the list of complete list of procedures in housing construction, which allowed to shorten the procedures, and this list has been approved in housing, and now we're working to this list to be approved in other areas of construction. Also, the minister is preparing the bill about partnership and construction, and all these bills are prepared and to develop the mechanisms of construction in different territories. And this document is being developed in the framework of the program of the Russian Federation for providing accessible housing and it was dated the 15th of April this year, and it is against limits in legislation and connected with the development of territories. And in the code, it is stated that in the territories where the apartment houses are located, some houses which are for damaging and deleting, and there are special programs, and the subjects of this real estate is not regulated in a proper way, and now some houses are used to be extracted from the municipal fund, and the houses which are damaged, and their market price is almost nil, and that's a decision to give another kind of houses, and the other. According to the treaty of agreement, the owners may purchase such houses, but they may have the risks of the owners to sell these houses, and there are no obligatory extraction of such houses, but the bill supposes to have the special trading with the owners of the houses which are not damaged, and here is freedom in willing of the owners of houses on the land, and investors may offer their own prices, and it is in the percentage from the price of the house, and 100-200% from the market value, and if it is an agreement at the meeting of the owners of the house, so the unified agreement is signed, and if it is not signed, the investor may refuse from this agreement or to continue trading, and this kind of decision is widely spread in different countries and democratic and civilized, and with experts we are working on this bill, and during this bill, and extracting land for municipal needs was extracted because it is not very important. It's very important, to transfer people from damaged houses. There is no need for municipals. And it is very important for the ministry to follow this trend. And present time, the federal laws have not regulated the exploration of territories for housing, and especially on lands where there are where there is private ownership. And as for legal regulation, is a constraint for private partnership, and to avoid these constraints, the ministry to follow the state program. So at the legislation level of the complex exploration of the territory, there should be the specific features of providing auctions, and the bill is also oriented for providing municipal and governmental support and the opportunity, well, to build low buildings and one-story buildings, and it's very important to develop industrial zones. The ministry is working on because we'll have to speak about legalization of the territories, well, for the city needs, and on the territory of such industrial zones, it's important, well, to develop the zones and the square of such territories, 19,000 hectares, and in this direction we're working effectively, and we need to introduce the changes in the legislation. We're actively learning the international experience, and the experts who will be taking part in this forum will give us an opportunity, well, to work on it, taking in the regional aspects into account. Sorry, I was flying all night long. Well, thank you for your kind attention. Thank you.
Svetlana Otyasheva of the Department of the Territorial and Socioeconomic Development of Ministry of Development of the Russian Far East. Good day, dear colleagues, dear participants of the forum. On behalf of Ministry of Development of the Russian Far East, let me welcome you all here. Can I please have the next slide? The new development model of development of the Russian Far East is identified by the President of Russia, Mr. Putin. It looks at the development of export-oriented industries, the use of natural resources, transportation and logistics challenges elimination in order to develop. Svetlana, can you please first, you don't need to agitate people for the development of the forest. With the purpose of development of the Russian forest, the president has encouraged to develop the territories by the tools of territories of advanced development, to make them the key strategic locations at the Asia Pacific. As we know, this is a priority. You know that in Asia we're developing, we're becoming one of the largest economic regions of the world. And Asia is becoming one of the leading economies of the world. Territorial proximity to Asia Pacific, the resource potential, allow us to use to properly modernize the economy of the Russian Far East, which is why our mission is to integrate economy of Asia Pacific, Russian Far East into Asia Pacific. And we would need to invest, attract more investments. And this is a task that the Territories of Advanced Development is looking at. International experience of many countries of the world that are identified on the slide was looked at by our scholars. We were looking at discussions with business community. We were looking for locations and venues for advanced territories of advanced development. Originally, we have had 400 offers, suggestions, and we filtered them to 14. Based on the well-known limitation of the Russian Far East logistics, infrastructure, and personnel, we have selected only 14 of those that have highest potential. The total area of territory is over 20,000 hectares, that could be expanded to 25,000 hectares. In Primorsky Krai, those are research and recreation areas. In Yakutia, we are planning to create an industrial zone, a center of processing of diamond raw materials. In Kamchatka, we're going to build a large farm. In Magadan, a joint Russian-Japanese production line on production of liquefied hydrogen. In Khabarovsky Krai, we're looking at different industries such as fish processing, shipbuilding and fish repair, assembly lines. Besides, we're looking at formation of Yakutia, Khabarovsk, and Primorsky Krai and Jewish autonomous areas to create similar zones. Ministry of Development of the East is looking at the total economic output to be over 300 billion US. And here we have a list of potential partners. We have signed a number of ministries of understanding, such as Marubeni, Mitsubishi, Mitsui, and other companies. Besides, we got in touch with Korean companies, Chinese companies, to work on the territories of vast developments. Larger Russian investors are also looking at it. Alrosa, Suma Group, Mitchell, Solars, and other companies. However, I would like to highlight that the positive role of the territories as an area of development of smaller business. As you know, the arrival of larger investors allows to attract smaller businesses into these territories. When it comes to the legal foundation of this, on the 14th of October of this year, the bill on territories of advanced development was introduced to the Russian Parliament, and it is expected that this bill would be considered on the 22nd of November of this year. On the territories of advanced development, we have a special legal regime. We're establishing the tax administrative concessions and benefits, simplified registration procedures. Svetlana, I'm sorry, can I make a little clarification? I was involved in the development of the norms for special economic zones. What is the principal difference of zones of special economic zones and territories of advanced development? What did we fail in special economic zones and what we are going to deliver in territories of advanced development? What would the add to what's not existent now? Territories of advanced development are very favorable to bring residents. As I was telling you, we have great preferences of allocation, resources, insurance payments. We have discounts and concessions on payment of taxes. So the number of benefits is greater than it was originally sought for the special economic zones. Right. Well, territories of advanced development we're looking at creation of 70,000 employment opportunities, larger investments from the government. As we're developing the territories of advanced development, we're having the resources of the Russian Far East to implement the larger investment projects. All right, thank you. The ministry has analyzed 318 investment projects, and the presence of real investors was one of the major factors of identification. We have developed the methodology of prioritization of the different territories of advanced development, and each of the projects would be supported by executive decree of the government. Here we have a list of the projects, 18 projects, that are specifically identifying the projects. As the result of development of these projects in the territories of advanced development, we could look at increased regional gross product, which would double the existing figures, formation of 70,000 of employment opportunities. Besides, we also understand that an investment project is impossible without effectively acting transportation networks. We're looking at the development of transit potential of the Russian Far East, international transportation corridors that go through Primorsky Krai, Primorye 1 and Primorye 2, and the Northern Sea route. The federal programs as well, such as the development of Trans-Siberian Railroad, that is meant to increase the capacity of ports to 55 million tons per annum. Trans-Baikal and Amur Railroad, that is meant to assist the development of natural resorts projects there. Vladivostok, Khabarovsk transportation networks are also expected to expand. Primorsky Krai seaports and others are meant to be developed as well. This is all I had to say. Thank you very much, Svetlana. I'm asking Mikhail Kuzovlev to take the floor.
I am giving the floor, well, to Mikhail Kuzovlev. You're like a bankman. Well, what kind of vision do you have? Well, but I'm here as a tourist. Well, and it's morning here and the beginning of the working day, and that is why I don't have many figures. Well, please, the first slide. Excellent. We are the bank and very far, well, from urbanism, well, and that's so nice. Well, you are saying that we're the bank. And the issues are very important, which are being discussed. And Bank of Moscow is a municipal bank, and we're working with the municipal and regional authorities. And when we heard about the forum, and we are supporting you, and that is our strategy. And as a representative of the Urban Forum, we're very happy about our cooperation with the bank, and they have the expertising, well, for working with the cities and megapolises. And our forum is not only the conference in one place, but it's a set of activities, and we're moving around the territory of the whole country. When there was a question where to held the events like those, for sure Vladivostok became the first one, and that is the city where we can see the dynamics of development. And if we see Vladivostok present time and 10 years ago, there are two different cities, and for the last 10 years Vladivostok has completely changed, and for sure we remember negative dynamics which was in 1990s. And here you can see, well, it's drawn here, and here is the bridge, and I could see it today. The bridge is different. And the columns, well, there are more, one more column more of the bridge, and for sure urbanism is science, and science is the learning of what is happening. And when we are having a look at the bridges, well, they have tied, well, the territories of Vladivostok, and that is not the only element, and that is not the it attracts, and that's the image of the city. And it's substantially, the transport infrastructure has changed. And next slide, and for sure, and I'm closer to the financial issues, well, but I'm pleased to say that we take part in financing several projects which have altered the image of Vladivostok, and that is the center and hotels, parental center, and what we, the banks, like with the development of the infrastructure. We have funded the development of the railway network, and will be going on with this. And who were the contractors? Well, The contractors were the municipal and some private entities, but if to take urbanism, well, how it's financed, funded on behalf of the local authorities, and we have the positive trend, and we're developing it. Indeed, when we speak about urbanism and Vladivostok, there are several illustrations which the regions may use well, for their further competitiveness. And if we speak about urbanism, if we speak about the present development, the whole population is concentrated in big cities, and the Far East in this area is the key point, the hub, the center, which may attract the labor forces. And today we can see that there are a very important role in the environment, the efforts in scientific R&D. There are several institutions which led to the formation of the Federal State University, and we can mention the role of the present governor, who was the rector of the university at those times, and this gives a great positive effect for the future because it attracts young people and businesses, and you have an opportunity to get qualified personnel and for such a big educational center, and at the same time business is concentrated around such educational centers. And present time we can see what we can see on the island Ruski, and I'm going there today, and it's very positive for the further development of the whole Vladivostok agglomeration. Admittedly, it's so pleasant that today the governor announced that some agreements will be signed today, focused on the polycentric agglomeration, and if we see the map of Vladivostok, that would be the only kind of development. And those agreements which will be signed today will give an opportunity to the local municipals and authorities to take into consideration the balance of interests which they follow, to develop not only the separate municipal but the agglomeration as a whole. If we speak about urbanism in Vladivostok, we can say that all these target programs were developed for the summit in 2012, and we can see it. We can see in Sochi, in Kazan, Bank of Moscow supported Krasnoyarsk in the contest for providing winter Olympiad, and such projects give the push to the development of megapolis because they attract a lot of attention and give an opportunity to focus on the project. And for this project, the work on the development of cities starts. And on behalf of urbanism, Vladivostok is a key city. Yeah, urbanism, that is good, for the youth, and Kazan, has won the benefits of it and discovered that it is 1,000 years old. And so then they got the right, for hosting the the Olympiad. The more we have such moments in our life, we'll have the willingness, to develop such projects and develop in Vladivostok, overcoming this balance in the European country. We have the megapolis, which is ready to compete with the other big cities of Europe and the world, and Moscow and St. Petersburg and Kazan, Ekaterinburg. But we have bigger interest, and we are feeling it, and with the time zones. When we speak about future, we'll have to speak about what was mentioned about Big Vladivostok as about agglomeration, uniting the city satellites, and the form of development of Vladivostok agglomeration, and it was reported by the speakers about the territory of advanced development or accelerated development. It was in Kazan. Well, but there is an answer to the question how these tours may be different. First, the Bank of Moscow was like the municipal bank, and we were engaged in the program of the free economic zone in Zelenograd, and now we realize that we have the trend when the free economic zone or the territory of accelerated development is used well. So with the attention to the municipal authorities, especially when the president coordinated with the mayor of Moscow, well, of giving governing of Zelenograd. And in this direction, there should be the further development, and it is said that we'll have to get some amendments in the bills, and it should be not only the governmental things, well, but it also should be in the power of regional authorities, and it should be not like from seeing from abroad how you spend the budget, and it's very important, well, to support the municipals, well, and the region. And Vladivostok, we're specializing in special products, financial products. Financial expansion, you can see how your city orders are funded with and contractors, how, and there will be some discussion. Our colleagues will speak over it, and it's important, well, not to repeat the mistakes, and it's important, well, to manage well from the regions, and the local authorities will have an opportunity to use the development of agglomeration. To develop, you need to overcome the challenges, and for banks, you can see that's so good. That it's necessary for Vladivostok to attract 66 billion rubles within 10 years, and that's so nice. There is the financial institution, and it's an area of modernization of the transport infrastructure, and at the beginning of my speech, the question, why bank and urbanism together? Well, and we did some small projects in urban things, and traffic jams. Well, so that's evil, and unfortunately, and we're facing them every day, and it's important to develop the project of the public cycling, and it is working in St. Petersburg and in Moscow, and such an experience is in Kazan. That's not us. Recently, I read the report of the transportation department in New York, and there are statistics on the 8th, 9th Avenue. Well, there were cycling lanes, and the volume of trade increased by 50%. And on the one side, well, statistics says such projects which probably may not change the image of the city. Well, nevertheless, thank you for these projects.
I'm asking Mr. Blacher to talk the floor. He represents the Department of Philosophy of Pacific Institute, Pacific University. Good day, dear colleagues. I have a very difficult function of an expert here, I am not the leader, nor I am the savior of the nation. I would like to attract your attention, however, to issues that are some are of importance when it comes to the development of the Russian forest. They're fresh. They're not older than 100 years, and they have been traditionally confronted. We're confronting our regions. The first one is a transportation network. The transportation network employs global and local senses. You cannot solve the problem of the development of the region as a transit territory, which of course is very useful, along with the task of improvement of quality of the regions. They're just two different tasks. Why transportation networks construction is very important, without which we can't do anything. In 1990s, it turned out that the Russian forest was, and most of the remote areas of parts of the country were left for its own survival. You guys make your own money, and whatever was closely located was transportation work. Uh, Transportation networks was privatized. For example, lumber was cut and moved to China. However, legally it was still existing. And today we have mega projects that are designed for those forests which exist on the paper. And the construction, as a result, becomes extremely expensive. However, without construction of new roads, we do have the forest, but we don't have the roads to the forest. Uh, we do, for example, have gold in our region, but we don't have the roads and highways to get this gold out of the ground, and a lot of other resources. But construction of the roads is a regional and painful challenge. However, there are federal problems. The smaller Trans-Siberian railroads, which blocks the whole development of the Russian forest because the cargoes cannot go. Expansion of Trans-Siberian does happen. We're building a transportation hub in Khabarovsk, but uh, when we need to transportation network, we're creating the two-lane highway roads and the four-lane road. The Northern Sea route also helps if it develops dynamically. Part of the cargoes that are going through Trans-Siberian might go through the Northern Sea route. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to develop the port of Vladivostok because it would be jammed. The same thing happened during Land Lease program when Vladivostok was becoming a major port. It was just blocking the whole development of transportation. So I hope we solve this problem. Leonid, I have this feeling that in this whole, everybody would know this problem and wouldn't want to solve it. What, uh, what is the novelties that you want to introduce to the discussion in this regard? As a matter of fact, counterintuitive is only the local construction of roads. A lot of companies are built as a place where we don't need them. Uh, Talking about Amursk forestry plant that is built for non-existent forest. This is not a single situation. It happens quite often and it remains a typical issue. The other thing I would like countering the problem of energy. We see a very interesting table of decline of administrative barriers in territories of advanced development. However, the energy of the province is calculated by as costs. And of course, the presence of territories of advanced development and decreased levels of use of energy would increase the costs. The consumption of energy is going to be very high. and how this situation would develop, where energy costs would raise everywhere except for the territories of advanced development. This is becoming a matter of discussion. Well, it's a matter of having a free cheese only in a mousetrap. If somebody's underpaying, somebody would overpay. The reasons why we would want to understand why is the energy so expensive comes to the great list of problems. The hidden costs on social policy and energy. Energy companies support a great deal of social community projects, and it's included into our tariffs. So if there's some hidden part of the price, it increases the overall tariff for electricity. And the last problem that we are to address is it's rather painful to see that, Kazan is a very beautiful city now. Vladivostok is a very beautiful city as well, and it looks cool and nice and beautiful. In Kazan, however, they have the problem already. As a result, these beautiful big projects can exist with permanent, under condition of permanent investing. Mega projects for what? If it's a mega project, as some sort of a fetish, we're going to have a big city, then we're going to develop just like Shanghai agglomeration. However, if we have some attributions of larger city, megapolis, maybe it makes sense to ask ourselves. This situation is developing in a very awkward way. Megapolises exist in a place where smaller business is intensively developed, along with a big deal of other things. I should think we should establish it from the smaller project, not the larger project, because there are some issues that are not considered as a functioning of very large companies and implementation of these. For example, one of those is the larger the company, the higher cost of loyalty. The legality costs. The larger the company, the larger is the number of controllers it should have for a company to exist. So the management costs are increasing. And smaller companies are better off in terms of their management costs. The concept of territories of advanced development as is formulated would give us some number of elements of attributions. Or another option, the only places that would survive in the region would be territories of advanced development. I don't know if it's good or bad. It's up to you colleagues. I'm sorry, but as the last thing that I would like to address, in the last 5 to 6 years, we're creating the good laws that should work. However, the law now has the degree of the highest threshold of risk beyond which your economic activity becomes impossible. A lot of that goes through informal practices. As a result, good law comes into contradiction is informal practices and terminates the economic activities of the region. The last thing I would like to address is this. Unfortunately, combining regional and federal and territorial tasks creates inapplicable image of the future based on which you would want to develop. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. The next session would be dedicated to the territories of advanced development. and it's not a matter of just fun to ask. We'll get back to it because, along with advantages, of course, we do have disadvantages. And the fact of formation of a territory of advanced development means that we cannot solve a number of problems in the conditions of existing legislation. The customs of business, nonetheless, we are creating more preferential conditions in a way of formation of unequal conditions of regular business practices and those who would get into these territories. On the one hand, we're getting the potential for breakthrough on these territories. On the other hand, it creates the depressive economic zones that are not part of these territories of advanced development. Thank you very much. We have two more.
Also, we have two speakers, and so we'll use the microphones we are having on the table. Yuri Krupnov, the chairman of the Supervisory Council of the Institute of the Regional Development. Yuri, that's an important question. What is it for? Who will be working on it, and who will be living here in the Far East in particular, and behind the Urals, and what is your vision? I've heard one from Scholar, well, that Russia is decides a big task, big paces of. We have a shortage of population, but rapid development, and that is non-standard task for any country. I would come, well, not to the shortage of population. If take the shortage of population in the Far East and not to connect the things with it, it reminds me the creation of the theory where the plague is people dying and you will have to adjust and to live. Well, that is not the right approach. The problem of low birth well and demography problems, and even Africa and in the nearest 50 years will face this problem, and dying out humanity is not the problem. And you are right, Andrei Vladimirovich, that you are right, and that the main issue of every changes in the Far East, well, is how it will allow it to preserve, to save the local population of people who are living here, know the Far East, and in many generations. And if any reforms will be connected with the shortage of population, that would be systematic failure. That is a child task about the leaking swimming pool well, and on December 2006, Vladimir Putin, there was a task. The life in the Far East should be attractive for the citizens of Russia, and it should be more attractive here than in Moscow. And you can think whatever you think, but Vladivostok, in Vladivostok, there should be huge and not easy understandable now. Well, but it should be systematic approach. But to my mind, I'm sorry. Well, usually I'm speaking about project, and for 12 years, I'm moving through books, and that's so nice that a new Far Eastern policy is in combination with the policy of Putin. But the last 25 years, if we don't make the right conclusions for 25 years, well, and also concerning the free economic zones, we are creating special conditions, introduce the free market system, and everything should be rolling. But we can see if the prices for oil are lower, shaking starts, and this unpleasant situation is coming to an end, and there is a question arising how to live after the summit, or how to live after high prices oil prices, and it was covered with extra revenue, and it was about the great Soviet Union, and we harvested for 70 years, and now there is a question in the fridge. There are no products, and what to do. And as a reflection, I would like to draw your attention that if in the central region of Moscow the market laws are not so effective, like it's shown, but in Russia and territories in Vladivostok, with no governmental regulation and planning, nothing will happen. It's impossible, and that is the most important key point. And President Putin pays attention to that. And if we speak about Vladivostok and the Primorsky Krai, there is a very geopolitical situation is in tension, and though I love the other territories well, and some people may compare it with Kostromskaya Oblast region, well, but here we are in the situation of cooperation, of contradictory and arguable five civilizations. And if Vladivostok is not a city of civilization and the federal center doesn't invest in Vladivostok, then our cycling lanes laid down from one house to another will not give benefits, because the population will be leaving. And I will never forget the disastrous words. I was working in Khabarovsk, and I was speaking with young people, and the young people, they say, oh, that's garbage here in Vladivostok. But I can see, well, that's so nice weather. Well, but the young people were thinking about slums, well, and the foundation created by the summit, well, that is the platform, so the young people could get here, and that is the main issue. And for sure, here every decision should be taken into consideration, the geopolitical and geocultural and economic perspective. And if we speak about the territories of accelerated development, there will be special development, well, but it's a problematic issue, and there is an illusion that we'll have 9% of taxes like in Singapore, like in 40 points, and there will be abstract world investments for which had been flown for 25 years, flowing, but still we are not having them. And if to apply to the neighboring China, will have to remember that in the world sharing of labor in China, there is high exploitation, and it's a dependable country on trans corporations. And I don't want people in the Far East, well, to work with 4 times exploration compared to the United States of America. And when we speak about extra profit, and if to take part, to speak about China and speak about goose league, if Japan, Singapore was, if to speak about extra cost and distributing, we can speak that the beneficiaries were on the top of the pyramid. If to get the Vladivostok in the subject of exploitation by transcontinental corporations, it's not important where the headquarters are, so the Far East will not raised, and the Egyptian zones fenced with wire, and all around people will be living from the zones. Probably that is an acute issue, well, but that's not. The thing is that according to the initiative of the president, the summit, APEC, governmental regulation in the Far East. Well, we need to have it, well, not to lose Vladivostok and such in the situation, geoeconomic situation, and the shift to the exploitation. Well, there may be political consequences, and that's very important. There are 2 points are important. So the central idea of Putin, the Far East, is our main priority of the 21st century. Well, but to think deeply, well, it will have to understand that the staters of the Far East will have to raise the flag of the staters, and here with separate things, the outstanding economic things. Yuri, what what about people? The majority of people living in Vladivostok, they are pleased to hear about big role, but in daily life, that doesn't hit them. Why do people leave Vladivostok? But on the other hand, what should happen that such a big flow of speeches and speaking has led that people stopped living and started migrating. Not long ago, I was reading about Stolypin, the book by Solzhenitsyn, and with admiration, well, he described, well, how stimuli were developed when the families were moving in the Western Siberia, and the 1911, well, with the Ministry of Land, he was observing, and he was surprised that people spirit and their behavior, and that times incentives were developed so to change the situation. But now the present mood and what is needed, what is the critical component, should be indeed government state policy, and to say that it's cool. The main thing is to understand that Vladivostok is not the economic problem, but that is geoeconomic and geopolitical issue. There should be standard methods of calculating and analyzing, and Vladivostok will stay well in the situation like it had been before. Yuri, what does it mean for housewives? It means that for a daily life, with people serve in the governmental institutions, and they are standing at the key point of the present life, and the field life pushes them not only to Moscow or to Singapore and other areas. And Moscow now is not the only city for young people, well, like it had been, like it was 20 years ago, and that's so good. Well, but that's not so bad that we are missing the Far East. That's another question. There should be a different economic model here in the Far East than in the rest country. Well, and there should be the project economy. And it should be discussed. There should be principally a different model, economic model, and Vladivostok will not in the under conditions like it had been before, and that is the first to survive and then to sink. And what is a different economic model? Well, does it have to stop paying taxes? Well, no, there should be criteria. The tariff approach will be with constraints, and if it happens like that, what shall we be speaking about? And with density of population different from the European part of the country, well, with extra tariffs in energy in different directions, and it exists the discussion for 15 years, and the tariffs are still different, and there are economic laws, well, but nevertheless, well, it is more important, well, to define what the Far East for Russia is for. If it is the far supposed the driving force. So we'll have to come from the point, not from what the summit has given to Vladivostok, what was given and now how to live with it. Instead of it, there should be the development. The city in the new situation will not be able to live in the old patterns, and for sure there should be from as a whole around the country, there should be ecological sovereignty. When we speak about the territories of advanced zones, the main problem where the serious discussion starts is to ask what industry we're speaking about. Is it about if it is about a screw industry, that is one thing. But if it is a technologically appropriate industries, high-tech industries, that's another issue. And in my report about these territories, the main thing is not about taxation, like in Singapore. The history of Singapore is the history of the United States and Japan. And also about the climate zones and about the Chinese mentality. And if you don't understand that, the port Marina or in Nakhodka, 9% will flourish, and there is nothing to speak about, and different activities are required. Well, the main thing, the state governmental model is needed, and Vladivostok with no center will not survive, and the last 20 years have proved it. And would you like to try the other 25 years? But I would not like to join it.
As we are discussing territories of advanced developments, I think we'll get back to this topic because there's something to discuss and to think and to argue. We still have Mr. Revzin, with whom we had a chance to visit, to have a tour around Vladivostok, and he was unhappy about some of the places in Vladivostok. Grigory, could you please take the floor, and could you please continue what the previous discussant was addressing? Why are we speaking about Vladivostok and not the province? Why is it not a super attractive destination for youngsters? I still believe that most of the people don't care if it's a city of large events, or they still prefer the city to live because they're comfortable living here, they're safe here, and they have revenues. They like the climate, they like everything. Unlike the opposite, if you don't have that, they wouldn't live here. As an urbanist, what's your opinion? How would you evaluate the city? Its advantages, disadvantages, and its capacities? You know, I'm an expert, but an expert is a kind of creature that looks on the side and assess things, but you still sometimes lack the information. When you're looking at Vladivostok for the first time, it has a big number of industrial zones. So those enterprises that are working for military purposes. So now the city is reforming, and you guys don't quite understand what you want to do with the city. But why would the citizens be uncomfortable about it? People could be fine with that if they just don't have anything to do. As an urbanist, I still can tell you that we have quite a big number of very clearly defined axioms, which would say that mono-development is a bad thing, and properly developed you could do only if you have on one territory, not in the whole of the province of Primorsk Krai, but if you have different kinds of industry, different educational institutions, and so on. As a many functions crisscross, that creates sustainable development. When I hear about the plans of development, what I've read about the plans of development of Vladivostok, what we hear today, what we address at the conference today, maybe I just lack some information and there's something hidden from me. Because imagine you have to defend the territory of the Russian forest. How would you act? Well, I don't need the roads inside to defend it because the transportation will still continue. My mission would be to keep the harbors, protect the harbors, uh, to have to assign different functions to different harbors. If, for example, these people would need medicine officers, I would put them here. If I see 14 economic zones scattered throughout different locations, instead of putting them into one place, I have this feeling that somewhere behind us there's some sort of military that are trying to develop this territory. If we're in, in the framework of industrial and military development of the territory, as it happened during the Soviet times, if we're confronted with national challenges, if you work here and you are a military here, I would understand how it would happen here in the beginning of 19th century. You just need to keep the territory. And if you're looking at this original development of Vladivostok, you wouldn't care about the comfort of people. If we're talking about free development of the city, for example, free enterprise in wood processing, logistics, transportation, they won't develop freely. They wouldn't develop at all because normal development requires crisscrossing in different industries. I hope that these, what I would call them, operations on development of the territories, there's some sort of military support. If you don't have this kind of support, maybe in your head you continue having the military support that has already gone many decades ago, and you should develop the territory in different ways. Thank you. Thank you, sir. We'll get back to this topic, Grigory, during our final plenary, where we're going to discuss the city. However, this important signal, the thoughts of an outsider, are very important for the Ministry of the Russian Forest, with such hopes for that now these 14 projects would save not the whole world, but at least this part of the world. And I believe that the governor should also think about how, on one hand, to develop the spatial development of the whole province, and also to create this crisscrossing of functions. And another topic that we are to discuss here, the indicators for development of smaller business. You see that if the government is promoting its development program, in most of cases they're pretty much looking at larger companies. But how about smaller companies? There's just nobody looks at them. It's like you have a lot of them, but you can generate little profit from them. But nonetheless, they are the ones that are creating the employment opportunities. So learning how to work with them is also a very important task. Colleagues, we ran out of time, and I hope we can do without the questions and answers. If none of the speakers insist on some remarks, we will continue our discussion at the next round tables. I would like to thank you all for this discussion and our audience for attention and patience. Thank you very much.